today I was expecting when I got home that there was this box, and I thought it was going to be this lingerie and this box. And I opened it up, and it was a Tiffany vase, a really big blue box. It's always great to get one of those blue boxes. And I opened it up, and it was a crystal vase from one of my clients that we had made wildly successful. And we've been working with them for 7 years. And it was the first time I'd seen we made them wildly successful, because there were no other Tiffany vases in the past. And I looked at these thank you letters we were about to send out, and I just put an X over them. And I said, we really want to do that. Now, my last 60 seconds, I have to tell you, when they were giving me this venture-backed money, I could see the VC's knees shaking, because this woman looked like a suburban blossom, and we were going to hand her the keys to run a company. And we just weren't sure she was going to do it. My second company was called Third Age. And he said, well, what are you good at? I said, I'm great at sales, I'm great at team, I'm great at vision, I'm great at partnerships. I'm not so good at deals, so I need a deal person to close, but I'm really good at the grace notes. So Liz Mitchell is this woman who was part of our world in New Zealand. And when this conference I went to on Thursday, my friend, I said, I would really like to give her a Liz Mitchell. So I actually have a trunk full of Liz Mitchells. So to Nicole and to Adeline, I have a little Liz Mitchell thing for you. And it's the grace notes that people remember. And Bill Bradley was one of my investors, and when he ran for president, they asked him what his wife would do as first lady. And he said, instead of saying she'd do schools or she'd do libraries, he said she would shine a light in the people that causes that matter. Leaders like all of you do that. Thank you.
So I did what everyone's supposed to do. I went and got my bachelor's degree. I then went and got my MBA. I went to Loyola Marymount, so sorry. I have a lot of family, though, that went to Santa Clara. So. I spent 20 years in high tech. So my first 10 years, I was down in Los Angeles. I worked for an aerospace company. And I was very lucky. It was a British-owned company, and so I got to travel all over the world and work with people from every facet of business. And I did mostly program management work and some sales and marketing. And I hated sales because they used to make me call these generals up and ask them questions, and they always would say, I can't tell you that, Mary. And then I'd go to my boss, and he'd say, call me again. You know, so anyways. But I learned a lot because I learned to be persistent and to keep asking questions. I moved up here and worked for Intel for 10 years, mainly in the finance department, and I loved it. I loved every day of it, but I traveled all the time, and I was never home. And I had 2 young children that I never saw. So I actually found I could not balance work-life, working at Intel, trying to get as high up in that company as I could. So I decided to quit. So after my corporate career, so I actually retired to stay home with my children. And what I found was that I don't know how to be a stay-at-home mom. And that it's really hard to do, and I have so much more respect for my mother now, because she raised 6 of us. So I had this hobby, it was chocolate making, and I found myself making so much chocolate that every flat surface in my house was covered with chocolate because I had to keep myself busy. So I decided maybe I could sell this stuff. So I decided to go to school because I always thought I had to have credentials for everything I did. So I went and did a culinary program, and then I developed a business plan. And I did a business plan like every MBA student does their business plan. And of course, you only follow it for about a week, and then it's no longer valid. But I did do it, and it did make me think through what I was trying to accomplish. And it did make me think of what do I want to be as a company. Because I really didn't set out to be a really big company. I really was just setting out to do something with myself where I had some flexibility to be around my kids once in a while. So I opened the doors of the shop in '05, late '05. So what were we trying to do at Saratoga Chocolates? Well, I happen to be a chocolate fiend, and so is my husband. And we found, traveling all over the world, that there's only certain places that have really good chocolate. And we wanted to bring that here. So we wanted to use only local ingredients, and that limits what we can do somewhat. No preservatives. We wanted to make it fresh and sell it fresh. And we wanted it to look like little works of art and make it taste amazing. So those were our goals. You know, initially I said, oh, we'll do one little store. I'll be happy little proprietor. Maybe some web business, you know, and you know, if we need to, we'll try to, if other people want to sell our stuff, we'll sell it to them. So that was our original plan. So what have we done? We have grown our revenue 25% or more every year, even last year, which for a lot of people was a tough year. We made a break even about our 4th year. Last year I happened to be talking to another chocolatier by the name of Joseph Schmidt. He was being put out of business. He had been bought by Hershey. And they had asked him to find another chocolatier to supply some private label chocolates for Scharfenberger, which is a Berkeley-based chocolate company. So that opened a huge door for me. And I basically did the same thing where I have this little tiny 500 square foot kitchen, and I said, oh yeah, I can do anything, don't worry about it, no problem, we can do it. And they sent their Hershey corporate people in, and the Hershey corporate person looked at my kitchen and said, I can't even audit you because you're so small. You don't even have space to put all the equipment we require. And I'm like, well, okay. So we negotiated, and I always knew you can negotiate everything. So we just negotiated and negotiated to a point where we thought we were going to be in good shape. At that time, I found out they were closing Joseph Schmidt's original store in San Francisco, and I said, oh, you know, I always wanted to have a store in San Francisco. And next day, a guy from Hershey was there with a lease. He says, we still have this lease. We'll subsidize you to take this space. And I said, okay, sure, we'll open a store in San Francisco. So last year we opened a store in San Francisco, and we're still working with Scharfenberger on providing their truffles. And then in the last few years we've started to win awards in chocolate competitions, and that really helps us from a recognition perspective, so branding. So we've had quite a bit of press. We've been really lucky to get magazines to write articles about us. A lot of people like to hear I was in high tech for 20 years and then I did this. So we use that story. It works well. The first year we were in business, Fortune Small Business wrote an article because I teach classes, and they somehow found me and decided to write an article about my classes. So we were real lucky, and we've really harnessed our press. And then we've tried to capitalize on any of the awards we've won. So what about adaptability? So I used to think one store, we'll do wholesale, we'll be fine. And what we found is our margins are much higher when we run the retail side ourselves. So we're now moving more to a retail model for our expansion versus a wholesale model. It also gives us greater control over quality so that people don't sell our product when it's old. So we've decided to take control of that. We were lucky to open a business in 2009 because retail space was a lot cheaper to get. And there's a really amazing workforce out there right now. And if you get them excited about what you're doing, they are really excited to work for you, and they may not make what they were making, you know, in their previous career, but they're excited to be with you. And it makes a great environment to work in. And then we did need to, we have a kitchen and we weren't fully utilizing it. So if you can get your kitchen to be full all the time, you save a lot of